the listeners and followers thought that the life and ministry of Jesus was going to be a total departure from the life and ministry or ministries of the prophets of old. But today he confirms it to them and to all of us. I have not come to abolish, I have come to fulfill. The old alliance is not some kind of an error that needs to be destroyed. The best way to look at that alliance is to see it with the example of a map. A map necessarily leads you to somewhere, like a compass, like your GPS. So the Old Testament is the map, and Jesus is the destination. He is the final destination of that map. So those who keep to the letters of the law, the spirit of the law, it leads them to Jesus Christ, who is the fulfillment. And in order to show that connection, 2 weeks ago, remember, they visited Jesus on the Mount of Transfiguration, the one who represents the law and the one who represents the prophets, Moses and Elijah. So Jesus is a fulfillment of all the Old Testament moments, prophecies, prototypes and typologies. He fulfills them. For example, where the law is written in stones, Jesus moves it from the stones into our hearts. Where the Old Testament talks about killing people, Jesus goes to the root of the matter, anger, bitterness. He opens up on the possible causes of these things. Where the Old Testament talks about adultery and its light, Jesus talks about impurity and purity. So for him, the heart is the center of decisions and actions. So while the Old Testament wrote down inscriptions and laws to be kept, like a bare compliance, Jesus educates the heart. He teaches the heart. The heart of education is the education of the heart. Jesus teaches the heart. The heart is the center of everything that we do. That is why, in fulfilling all that the Old Testament tried to say in a faint way, Jesus summarizes it in one word: love. Love is the law. And the heart is the seat. That is why he teaches the heart. So that we tell people a piece of our hearts and not a piece of our minds. When we tell people a piece of our minds, we are fighting with them. But when we tell them a piece of our hearts, we are loving them. Because the heart formed by God, the conscience formed by God, is not capable of doing error or harming anyone. It is the throne of God, where everything that is good is contemplated, is generated, is applied and lived out. That is the heart. So, the heart, which becomes the seat of the new law, no longer the stones, makes us spiritually sensitive. We move from love of ourselves to love of others, to the point of loving as Jesus loved. And how did he love? Sacrificially. That is love. That is the kind of love. He wants those who love him and copy after him to live out, sacrificially. It is that sense of sacrifice that makes you very sensitive to the needs of people. For example, if you were ever sick, you will do what it means to be very, very sick, maybe at a higher level. Oh, I'm not feeling well. Someone is even sicker. Someone is dying. That spiritual sensitivity makes you develop empathy for those who are suffering. So you don't wait for them to ask for help. Your heart naturally moves you towards that. If you were ever homeless, you are naturally drawn to those who have no homes. You don't wait to be told. You take the next step. If you were ever depressed, when you look around, you don't want to be told. You can ask a brother or a sister, I have a feeling that something is going on with you. Please, you have my ears, you have my shoulders, talk to me. That is the kind of love that takes you to the next level. So it is not about compliance or keeping the law. It is about making it your life and living it out. That is the law that Jesus is talking about. If you were ever hungry, if you were ever hungry, maybe if you are hungry for an hour, know that some persons will be hungry for a whole day or for 2 days. And do not wait to be told. The Lord wants you to look out for them. That is moving from the law to the practice of the law, which begins from the heart. So think of everything that can affect the human person that has happened to you, and think of it at a higher degree, that some other persons are going through it. Then the law that you have in your heart moves you towards them. So Jesus comes to fulfill the law. Doing these things is actually a fulfillment of the law of love. The law of love. So may the law of love be enthroned in our hearts, so that we too can reach out to others with the quality of the love that the Lord has put into our hearts. And the church says amen.
Amen.